Good
Good
morning,
morning.
ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mobile Streams PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just please simply type in your questions at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during today's meeting. However, the company review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we would like to submit the following poll, and if you would give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I'd now like to hand over to Nigel Burton. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for giving up your time during the day to be with us. I'm going to run through a few of the pre-submitted questions relating to the placing, because I know that's raised concerns amongst some people. Then I'll hand over to my colleagues Tom and Mark, who'll take you through where the business is at the moment and where we're heading. So we've also had quite a few people asking, why did you do placing? What were the details of it and all the rest of it? And I'm going to take you through the process because I think for some people this will just be motherhood and apple pie. For other people, I think it might be useful to understand in real life how these things actually happen. So we were sitting in this same room Wednesday of the previous week having just seen Gfinity's RNS, which you'll probably be aware they had a shocking profits warning and said, oh, by the way, we need to raise some money. We've been in talks with them for 4-6 weeks, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember exactly, about the joint venture, which Mark will describe later. And we thought, well, hang on, we may be able to help them here. And without going into all the details, confidential details of what they thought they might be able to achieve, we were able to give them a significant helping hand by offering to cornerstone that placing. That in turn obviously helped us with our commercial negotiations with them, of which more later. So that was like the Wednesday morning. In the afternoon, I called up the broker and said, well, we could do this out of our existing cash, but what do you think? Would a placing be possible? And on the Thursday, they did a small ring around of a few people. So I think this is, it is very unlike a sort of institutional roadshow where you plan all these things, you book up a week's meetings, you trudge around the city either physically or Zoom these days, and then build a book. What in actual fact happens here is that Peterhouse will build a book from a small group, maybe 20 or 30 of their high net worth clients. And in building a book, you get price and size, and you choose a price that works. And 25% discount is obviously quite significant, but less than many other placings I've seen, and certainly less than Gfinity had, which was a 60% discount to where they were 2 weeks before their placing, as people obviously got wind of something going wrong. So why did we do it? Well, obviously things have changed a lot in the last few weeks. When we were last speaking to investors, there wasn't a full-scale war in Ukraine. There wasn't the worry about the rampant inflation that's going to produce in terms of both fuel and food prices. And whilst we could have carried on without doing a fundraising, which is what we've always said we could do, what we didn't want to do was find ourselves, for sake of argument, at the end of this year, if the markets hadn't worked out right and the economy hadn't, maybe we'd even be missing our budget by then. And the one time you don't want to raise money is when you really have to. So we decided it'd be a lot more prudent to raise some money now. There was clearly a lot of appetite at a reasonable price. So we decided to go ahead with it. And that's how long it all takes, like 2 days start to finish. And then to make sure that retail investors had an opportunity to participate, we did the broker option, which quite a few of you did take part in. I appreciate some of your brokers, III and people like that are just not able to do that, but we weren't aware of that. So I think at the end we've raised money where now we're in a very comfortable position. It gives us a lot of flexibility commercially over the next 12, 24 months that frankly we didn't have until that money was raised. And it obviously allowed us to do something we'd like to do later in the year. Had the old 0.5p warrants actually been exercised, which we think they would have been had it not been for Putin. So we've bought in the remainder of Crunch, and I think that will be a very important part of the story, because we've now got both Live Scores and Crunch as wholly owned parts of the platform. And as you can imagine, moving forward, that gives us more control, more security, and is a platform that might be of a great deal more interest to other people. So look, I know it was a long explanation. I'd be very happy to take questions on it later if necessary, but I think it was just useful for some people who maybe didn't understand the process, just to know in real life what actually happens. And of course, a discount, I'm the largest shareholder, so I'm kind of as happy as anybody else to see, or unhappy as anybody else to see, a discounted placing. But we, the whole management team, the board, taking this, we're not looking on a 4-week view. This is about an investment and about building the business over the remainder of this year and beyond, and having a really strong balance sheet. Let's wait and see how other people are at the end of the year. But I'm very glad that the management team have got the funding behind them. So I think that's enough from me. If you've got questions on it later, please ask. But over to you, Mark and Tom.
Thanks, Nigel. Appreciate that. So now we're going to take you through a presentation about the company. I'm the CEO. Tom is the Chief Product Officer, and we're going to tell you all about what we do, how we do it, the whole story since the new management team came in a couple of years ago, what our plans are, and then how we're going to go about executing those. So, what is Mobile Streams? Well, basically, we provide next generation content to global audiences. So we're going to give you an update, which Nigel just done briefly. We're going to now go through the presentation, and then at the end we'll have the Q&A. So we've just talked about the placing we did. We've talked about the why we did it. One of the main reasons for doing that was we had the opportunity with Gfinity, and also there's a number of other opportunities coming up. I think Nigel's gone into some detail about that, and we're happy to do a Q&A at the end, but it's top level, put us in an amazingly strong position, best position actually the company's ever been in, certainly since we came and saved it. And now I'm going to take you through some more details about us. So our content group, our Mobile Streams content group, delivers world-class gaming content via our Crunch data intelligence platform, which we now own totally, to a global audience of over 800 million people. It's all around the world. That's including India, Argentina, Mexico, on mobilegaming.com. Internationally, we deliver some amazing games and amazing content to an audience of that size. That's our maximum reachable audience. We're growing that all the time. There's some exciting things to come on that actually, but we'll talk about that later on at the time. So to give a bit of historical perspective, we the new management team, pretty much the people you see on this presentation, came in around December 19 and saved the business. So basically, I think it was going to be delisted. So we came in, we saw a lot of value there, still with potentially some of the legacy contracts it had and the data that it had collected. Mobile Streams itself is a business that's been on AIM for 16 years. I think it's over 20 years incorporated. And it had just, the previous management had just run it down. So we came in, saved it, saw a lot of value in the data, a lot of value in some of the legacy stuff. And basically we spent the first number of months, this was just before COVID, we spent the first few months trawling through that, harvesting data, harvesting the information, looking at all the data that we had. And then we came out, basically, I think the company was even suspended for the first 6 months due to us getting it in order and stuff like that. Then we came out around July 2020 with our first new product, which was the SaaS, the Crunch product, which was the Streams data intelligence platform. And that was basically a content marketing platform which utilized all the technology that we had and all the data as well from mobile streams to create a really powerful content marketing platform and business intelligence platform that could help companies with their small business marketing. And because mobile streams had 16 years, 17 years at that point of collecting data on content that it had delivered, we could add that to our intelligence engine, add that to our AI, and really give a great algorithm and give people a really powerful tool that can help small, medium businesses that don't have expensive budgets for marketing teams and don't have loads of people to do their social. Give them something that can pretty much automate that and help them get ahead in their marketing and deliver content that engages people, that works, and then track that back to their budgets. And that proved to be highly successful. And the business intelligence part and the tracking part was super successful. It was used by the National Emergencies Trust in the early stages of COVID. It's had big enterprise clients like The Economist, big agencies, big corporates, and that was highly successful. And that was our first real product. That was then followed up by some other deals we did, and some other deals we did to get more content for the other part of the business. When we actually launched a SaaS version, an online version of the content platform that you can buy for £10 or £15 a month, and that's been highly successful as well. We then undertook a major expansion of the audience side of the business, the content delivery side of the business. We signed contracts with and reinvigorated contracts with various different telecoms providers. So broadly, we have the ability to deliver gaming content and general content to all the subscriber base of various telcos around the world through what's called direct carrier billing contracts. And that means that they can subscribe to our service and pay for it straight through their phone bill. So there's a very low barrier to entry. So you don't have to use your credit card. There's no filling out forms. So if people like our product, like the content that we're delivering, they can just sign up and pay straight away. So it's really good. Those contracts are really hard to get, and we've done really well to expand on those and reinvigorate those. We then recently announced a partnership with International Gaming Systems, IGS, to expand our content portfolio into esports and beyond. And this is now we're getting right up to date now, broader plans, because that even furthers what we're doing. We announced the acquisition of a platform that we co-created with Quanta to test called Live Scores, which is very complementary to esports, which in itself could be a business worth multiple millions of pounds. Some Live Scores businesses are worth hundreds of millions of pounds as standalone. Our one is highly successful in Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. It provides sports updates and live scores into that market. That's powered by the Crunch engine. And then we're going to link that up with esports to create a really powerful product. We brought that technology in-house. And that's pretty much brought us bang up to date. And now we're continuing to grow the company and grow our revenue streams. And I'll take you through more detail about that now. So what's the opportunity? Well, basically, it's massive. So the gaming industry is now bigger than movies and music combined. It's an over market value currently. It's over 200 billion. The industry. It's enormous, basically. So everything is converging in this direction. So if you look at, I'm going to hand over to Tom in a minute, but if you look at the direction, we're building our platform and our technology, not for where the market was, which was sort of fixed computers and things like that, but we are building it for mobile accessible. But it's mainly for cross-platform. So we're building stuff for Web 3.0, and we're launching products. I mean, that's known as the metaverse. It's Web 3.0. But broadly, in terms of what it is in sort of layman's terms, the opportunity now is nothing short of, in terms of content creation, content consumption, and the ability to monetize content, to sell things into content experience, to sell things in-game, to sell things within an esports event, to sell things within a virtual event or virtual arena. It's nothing short of the internet completely reinvented. And, the opportunities are massive. So everything we've built, all of our technology, all of our platforms, it's all aiming towards this. And that market is set to be 800 billion. So it's all, think about how it's going to grow from the previous figure I just told you. It's set to be 800 billion in just a couple of years' time. So this is where everything's headed. So now I'm going to hand you over to Tom, who's going to give you some detail about some of the products that we're delivering and the services and how we do it. And then I'll come back in to sort of bring it all together at the end. And then what we'll do is we'll do a Q&A and try and answer as many questions as possible.
Thanks very much, Mark. Just checking everyone can hear me and I'm unmuted. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be guiding you through two main areas this morning. First, what our overall expansion strategy is, and then secondly, detail on how we're going to enter this market that is going to grow from 200 to 800 billion. Mark will then pick up at the end of the presentation to sum up our headlines and recap our vision for Q&A, which then can be taken with both Mark and Nigel. Just for a second, I just want to stick on this slide in a bit more detail. And you've heard Mark talk about cross-platform. That's our term. I don't think there is any real term for it at the moment. Some people say metaverse, some people say Web 3.0. There's a lot of different opinions. All we know is you can see this is where the market's moving to. And being in the mobile area that you can see here with the green arrow, this is very much kind of where our space is, and it makes complete sense to move into this direction. So how do we know this is working? This slide, which you just saw here, these are some of the biggest kind of movers and shakers in this area. You can see there you've got Facebook's Horizon World. They've invested 10 billion alone this year into that. Nike brought Artifact, which is an NFT platform, three-dimensional NFT platform, for an undisclosed amount, but fantastic company. Top right, you can see the Xbox and Activision Blizzard acquisition for 70 billion. Again, bringing those big gaming providers together. And then down the bottom, in the esports world, which is ESL, which is probably one of the biggest for a billion acquisition. So what's the point of this slide? Just to show something's happening here. It makes sense for us to move what we've got into this market because it's such a good fit. So as we move forward into the expansion strategy, how are we going to move forward and continue? Well, our plan really from a headlines point of view is we're going to be focused on three main things, which is gaming, esports, and NFTs. And we're going to drive revenue across each of those entities with our huge audience reach. This will, of course, be backed up, as Mark mentioned before, with our unique data insight platform, which we feel has already given us the competitive advantage and will do in the future. But as a content business, what have we always focused on in the past? This is gaming. This is part of what we do, and it's the heart of what we do. So the first part of our strategy is increasing our gaming footprint. And we're trying to maximize the potential that we've already got. We're going to be much more vibrant and wider. We're going to try and drive further revenue from the player experience that we're dealing with at the moment. As Mark mentioned before, we've already acquired live scores, which gives us that head start. But we've also got a deal with Vodafone and Geo, which was mentioned earlier on. And that allows us to broaden our reach even further. And it gives us a huge advantage with entities such as, or functionality such as direct carrier billing through these platforms. We're also, as a secondary element to this, launching what we call the MGC Arcade App, which is going to increase our reach even further. Our own apps will provide us with a more immersive experience, and this is something we haven't had before, and a great way to harvest more revenue and data. We are currently entering commercial partnerships with game creators, which will be announced later in the year, to bring life the best HTML5 games that are available, and you can see some snapshots of that here on the right-hand side. This will be at the end of this month. That will be fully going live, and it's looking really good in testing at the moment. It's also worth noting there's a huge emerging market of play-to-pay gaming, or play-to-earn gaming, as it's more commonly known, which is where users can actually go on, and as they're actually playing the games, they can earn through tokens, social tokens, crypto, something that is worth value for them while they're actually competing in these games. It's becoming a massive market, and we're developing our own IP in blockchain, crypto, and NFT tech that will enable us to be part of that technology, and we can touch upon this later. And finally, in this area, we're also going to be relaunching mobilegaming.com, which is something that's really been underutilized in the past, has been in hibernation. But with this, we're just going to create a huge destination for gaming news, which will be pulled by our Insight platform and partners, games, we're going to do NFTs, we're going to do airdrops, and you'll be able to access the app from here. So hopefully it'll be a really vibrant space that is needed in that market and will help us compete. Another big part of this space is also going to be able to host esports, which is something that we've mentioned that we're moving into. And esports is a great multifaceted mechanic that has the ability to bring people together from all over the world. And the stats speak for themselves. If you look at some of these stats here, 220.5 million occasional viewers, 215 esports enthusiasts, which gives them a combined audience of nearly 450 million. And even you can say Forbes then, you know, mobile gaming, which obviously is where we are, is going to transform this space by 2023. It's even worth noting that if you look over on the right-hand side here, you can see that Man City have just signed a 3-year deal with Sony that is actually getting them to build an esports virtual Etihad Stadium, because they can already see the value in this, and there's a huge amount of value that can be harnessed. Again, platforms is a really key part of this. So similar to what they're doing, we know the power of these platforms, and they can help facilitate a great experience. And through our partnership with IGS, we have announced a partnership with Battle Riff. This will give us the ability to deliver large gaming experiences, and partnerships like Battle Riff are fantastic platforms for people to come on to watch, to comment, to compete, to become part of that inclusive journey in esports and gaming, be part of that life cycle. And those platforms are fantastic. So having that destination there is going to be a huge advantage for us. An example of what we've been doing in this space is working with bigger companies such as PlayerUnknown's Battleground, or known as the acronym PUBG. So everyone knows of Fortnite. They assume it's the largest in the world. Well, if you look at the stats here, PUBG just basically comes above, you know, kind of those ones like Minecraft, etc. It's right at the top. It's a fantastic game, shooter game, interactive. We've done a combination of taking this game here with Besiktas, European football team, and creating an event where people come together and they can compete for a certain amount of cash to try and win the prize of being the tournament's leader. If I just show you some examples of how that works, you were to go to mobilegaming.com now, you will actually see there's a really interactive page which spoke about how the event actually worked. You can kind of click through to the interactive gaming environment where you can see some examples now if you press launch. And the way it works is we have a 2-week round robin event, the prize pot for winners and runners up. There's about 16 teams that compete, all with their own following. There's partnerships there on the periphery of multiple brands. And then everyone can comment throughout saying, oh, you're doing fantastic, oh, that was terrible, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a live video feed, there's interactive messaging. We get a huge amount of volume coming through to kind of watch these events. And then the revenue is generated through advertising, merchandising, partnerships, and also NFTs, which is where we mentioned we also want to get into this space. So NFTs are a great way for mobile streams, brands and players to build value. NFTs are already predicted to be an 80 billion industry by 2025. I actually think that's slightly higher now. In short, they're a great mechanic to deliver true ownership to players and gamers. This can be in the form of a tradable asset, so it could be a skin, a token, a card, a social token. There is conflicting press around their usage and where it's going to go. We just want to be part of that journey so we can harness it. But they're a great tool for engagement, and that's undisputed. They're a great tool for reducing churn and for revenue generation in the right hands. And you can see a lot of brands are looking to get into this space, and we want to help them get into this space. So how does it work in practice? Well, this is an example of the type of thing that we're building, we're doing. We'll be utilizing them as digital collectible items. You can see there, grab your own NFT. If you enter your email address, you'd already get an original NFT from the brand or someone that we're working with. It's already then got value. The more people that come in that immersive experience with the brand or the games can then build up on that NFT. And then it increases kind of attention, engagement, and increases the churn. It's all these kind of methods which are traditional marketing strategies that we try to employ. And then just finally, to finish off on the NFTs, as mentioned, we're looking to build our own platform here, which will be a white label solution. We don't really like the term white label, but we use it because people understand it. but again, branded completely for the actual brand that we're working with. They can get automatic wallets, which can be really, really complicated to kind of set up. You have linguistic issues, which can be solved. It's very secure. We partner with Solana and companies like that to help really with the best kind of form of blockchain. And then that brings us on to really the last couple of slides, which is all about merchandising. And the key takeaway here is that the gaming accessory market is due to nearly double over the next few years. And we're planning to deliver partnerships here to coincide with the events and across our schools, platforms, solutions to really make the most of the merchandising and licensing world. And then, as Mark mentioned, it's not forgetting that really this is the core of our strategy and the backbone of the company is our data insight platform. And just to kind of talk about what Mark said, this platform scales the web. It searches through hundreds of thousands of sites really to only locate the best content. As well as us being honoured that we won the best digital content platform last year. We use this insight to help us to define our content and deliver strategy across our huge audience. And later this year, we are also activating a news service that will begin to deliver the best gaming news to players from this platform into areas like mobilegaming.com, which we think, again, will give us a huge advantage. And it will be great for our audience. I'm now going to hand back to Mark, just so he can kind of recap on our vision and then bring the presentation to an end.
Thanks, Tom. So let's bring this all together. How does it all fit together? So since we took over the business, we've been building all the blocks, all the tools, and all of the framework to, in effect, harness this sort of next generation in gaming, next generation in content, to harness the metaverse, to harness Web 3.0. And we now sit in an amazing position, a great position, where we have all the foundational building blocks needed to harness that. We have the audience of 800 million people, and that could be an increasing, we're looking to increase that. We have the underlying technology, be it platform for NFT creation and monetization, be it platform to host and produce esports tournaments, and a platform to produce further digital merchandise, all of which can be monetized. And how does that all come together? Well, just recently we hosted our first major esports event in partnership with IGS, which was Besiktas. It was really successful. We got some amazing feedback from them. They were super pleased with it, and that had a wide audience. But one of the things you can do in the virtual space is have an enormous audience. So if you think about something like Wembley Stadium, that can hold 80, 90,000 people maximum, and in that people can come to an event, they can buy. So the opportunity, they can buy merchandise, before you go, you can have a dinner before you go. So the opportunity, there's an event, there's a crowd, but the entire universe is 80 or 90,000. We can broadcast an event to 800 million people, 1 billion people. We can sell merchandise, digital merchandise, to 800 million, 1 billion people. And those are just the people that can pay using their phone bill. Through mobilegaming.com, it becomes an almost unlimited audience, and those would have to be credit card, but more and more we're trying to integrate with telco contracts. We can partner with licensed leagues, clubs, bands, artists to create NFTs, and we not only get revenue from that, we get a percentage of the royalties from that. All of that sold via our platforms around an event or just in general, in a general marketplace. We have the ability to create general merchandise, both physical and digital, that's non-NFT, and we've got the ability to create a subscriber base and a gaming base that we can monetize at any time. So all of those things we now have, and it's not all coming soon. It's not like, this is in development and it's years and years away. We've already hosted our first event. This technology is either built or coming literally in the next couple of months, some of the things. It's in train. It's right there now. This is where everything's converging. Every single major brand, from drinks manufacturers to car manufacturers, clothing manufacturers, all major FTSE 100 companies, every single board is pressuring their marketing department, their commercial teams, to say, what is your strategy for the metaverse? What is your NFT strategy? How are we going to monetize our brand in the metaverse? How are we going to monetize our company with NFTs? Look at the games, look at the Commonwealth, look in the press. Yesterday there was a great article in the BBC saying, how big esports is going to be as well. So this is not sort of something that's not monetizable now. It is. This is not just for the future. And we are in an amazing position to pick up a lot of this business. much better position than legacy companies that have built tech on platforms that are now outdated, that are carrying legacy costs of fixed infrastructure, of buildings and of costs. We're a really nimble, lean team. We have a small core team and we do everything in partnership. We're extremely well capitalized as a business, and we're just in a great position. We have good partnerships, good clients, and good revenue. Our revenue has grown massively over the last just few months. I've talked about our audience size, talked about the size of the market opportunity. Our revenue's up 87.5%, literally since December. The whole team at Moss has done really, I think, an amazing job turning around the business, creating a business that's fit for now and the future. We've got, pretty low market cap at the moment. So for investors, I think there's a great opportunity. We're aiming to build a company that's going to be worth in excess easy of 100 million. We're pushing hard. We're a really dynamic management team, which really focused on delivering value and creating a lot of mid and long-term value for shareholders. And I think we're in a wonderful position. So with that, I think we'll finish off and we'll go to questions.
That's great. Mark, Tom, Nigel, thank you very much indeed for updating investors this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just while the management team take a few moments to review those questions submitted already, I'd like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. Mark, Nigel, Tom, obviously investors had the ability to pre-submit questions, and I know, Nigel, you very kindly addressed a number of those at the beginning. I therefore wondered if you would be able to open up the Q&A tab. You'll see that on the right-hand corner of your screen. You'll see you've had a considerable number of questions, no surprise there, from investors. And perhaps if I may just hand back to you and ask you, if possible, to read out the questions and give a response where, of course, it's appropriate to do so, and then I'll pick up from you at the end.
So shall I start? And then I'll sort of field it and then we'll hand over. So David, one just came in. David Q. Mark talks about linking up with brands. Are you in discussion with any, or is it just a concept? No, it's not a concept. Well, first of all, we have linked up with many brands: Movistar, Telcel, Vodafone, Geo, Besiktas, PUBG, Tencent, which are some of the biggest companies in the world, multi-billion pound companies. So first of all, we've already got major brand partnerships. Secondly, are we in discussion? Yes, we are. I can't talk about that now, but we're in discussion with highly significant and globally recognized brands and leagues and tournaments and franchises. But obviously that would be an announcement in the future. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Hold on, I'm trying to think. We can't go into monthly revenue for some things. That would be RNSable. But we've talked about our overall revenues up 87.5%, which is great. Someone's asking about the Best Digital Content Award. I think Tom will be able to say exactly what it is, but that was voted for. I think it was the Best Digital London Marketeers or something like that. Best Digital Content Award in London. We have, I think, the award on our site of what it actually is. If you go to the Mobile Stream site, but certainly we could find more information on that. We're very proud of that. Not easy to be named Best Digital Marketing Platform, so we're very pleased about that. Are you able to provide launch or specific target dates for each of these revenue streams? Well, some of them are launched, so this isn't, we're not talking conceptually. The NFT stuff is to be launched pretty shortly. Although the esports stuff is already launched. We've already announced a contract that's worth a minimum of $720,000 for just 6 months, for just 6 month minimum with IGS. So we're not talking a few thousand. So I hope that answers that question. We don't want to break down each revenue stream. I mean, even Apple doesn't, and they're much more advanced than us. They don't even talk about the iWatch, how much revenue they get from that or from the App Store specifically. So we have to be careful that we don't hurt ourselves competitively. We probably will do further down the track maybe, but we're negotiating a lot of contracts. There's a lot of commercially sensitive information, and if we give out too much, we'd just be hurting ourselves and shareholders for short-term trading sort of thing. That answers that. compared to initial budgets, will the recent deals, including IGS and GFIN, lead to accelerated EBITDA profit or extending the timing of selling net profit? Interesting question. I mean, it could bring it forward. We haven't announced the details of the joint venture with Gfinity yet. That's likely to be highly, that's likely to be, really good when we do. But watch this space on that. Obviously, we've announced IGS, $720,000 of revenue minimum in just 6 months, and I think a lot more to come on that to be announced. One thing I will say is, we've talked about this before, I think, not on this presentation, but in other presentations. We're very lean. We have total control of our cash burn. We don't have any particularly fixed outgoings and things like that. And so, we could be one of these companies that just suddenly says, aha, we're profitable, just to say we're profitable. But what we'd really be doing probably is not investing in growing the technology and growing the audience and growing the product and growing the business for the long term to hit, to get a properly sustainable £100 million plus and further out valuation. So we're not here just to solve a sort of, not artificial, but sort of a short term to say we're profitable. And could we do that if we really wanted to do? Maybe, yeah. But we're here, we're building things in the right way, in a sort of staged way, in a logical way, to build a business with value for the long term. So I hope that answers that question. There's another one here. What take-up do you expect from the warrants that expire on the 26th of March? Well, as they're at 0.5, we don't expect any take-up, probably I'd expect, on those, although if the price gets above 5 in the next 3 days, then maybe. But as that's only 3 days away, probably they're going to expire. Nigel might have a view on that, but I don't think I'm saying anything particularly outlandish there. Maybe after this presentation, people will like the price share so much, it rockets up to 0.7, and I might be proved wrong, and I hope to be. But that aside, I'm not certain. They'll probably just expire, which I think will be, people can take what they will from that, but that's just probably factual. What sets mobile streams apart from competitors in the marketplace? Well, I think talking about bigger competitors there and established. Well, the fact is that our technology is built for where the market is now and where it's going. A lot of other companies that may seem bigger are actually not bigger because their technology is completely redundant. They're sat on these legacy costs and these legacy contracts that they can't really monetize, and they're just bleeding cash. So whilst they may seem bigger, they're actually potentially quite weaker than us. And we come in nimble, fully sort of capitalized up, cashed up, with the products that are built for now and the future. And we could sort of win business hand over foot in that position. So I think we're in a really attractive position to harness the market where it is and where it's going, unencumbered by significant legacy costs that other companies would have. I'm scrolling through. Are there any perceived risks or threats to becoming a £100 million business? There's always risks and threats. I mean, we currently have a market cap of just, which I think is our view is obviously bargains. We were worth more just before we did the placing, of around 10 or 11 million, whatever the day is. The threats are doing things short term. The threats are saying, well, just for short term trading to say, oh, we're profitable, or not making decisions. Like the run we did to create what I think is going to be an incredibly successful joint venture with Gfinity, to create enormous value, is to not take those opportunities, to not be dynamic, to not be nimble, to not seize on opportunity when it presents itself, and to not execute our strategy in the right way. I think the market is where we want it to be, and going more where we want it to be. From what we hear, all brands, we've got so many meetings with so many brands lined up. We've got a great pipeline. So I don't think the market. I think the market is there. I think the monetization is there. It's just getting bigger all the time. The risk is in us not executing. We're not a £100 million business now. Obviously, we've got public valuation. We are aiming to get there, and I think the risk is in just us making. We've got to make good decisions for the mid and long term, and not making short-term decisions. Let me scroll through. I don't know if there's any more. Scroll. I can't scroll. There we go. Can you discuss reasons behind taking a stake in Gfinity and propose? I think we've answered that. The Gfinity joint venture. There'll be more details to come via RNS on the joint venture at the appropriate time. We're very, they're a great team. They're great people there. And I think the two companies combining on the project that we're working on, it's going to create a lot of value for both businesses. That's my opinion. Any plans to partner with the USA mobile provider? Some question in China. Watch this space. We're always looking for more opportunity to expand our audience on that one. Where do you see There's one about where do you see the company in 5 or 10 years? I mean, if we execute our strategy, we can grow naturally, or what's quite likely to happen is a big organization like Tencent, a multi-billion-pound company, something like that, a sort of Amazon, Facebook, a Tencent, a huge content provider will most likely just probably look to buy the company out, which is what normally happens. So you have a natural growth, but you normally, based on the market, significant content providers in the industry, look at Microsoft just bought, Activision, Tencent are buying things up. There's a lot of consolidation actually going on. So we'd be a very attractive target for one of these huge multi-billion-pound companies. Any liability are in Russia? No, nothing at all. We don't have any outsourcing in Russia or Ukraine or anything like that. Do you have a target price for exiting, de-risking the Gfinity investment? No, and I think we don't. I think it's a good investment. There are some questions about Geo coming. We have to answer those via RNS at the appropriate time. But the contract with Geo, I think you can say the contract with Geo is live, but we're looking to launch some stuff into there, and there'll be the appropriate answer at the time on that.
Well, why don't I just give you a few moments just to scour through, because for every one question you seem to answer, there's another 2 or 3 that follow on.
I can see they're coming in. So yeah, forgive me if my eyes are wanting to.
No, don't worry. Look, let me just remind investors.
Mark, whilst you've been speaking, I've been writing down all the questions, so I could run through a few that Mark may not have spotted.
Yeah, Nigel, please do. Please do.
So one of them was how many full-time employees do we have? It's for full-time equivalents, I think is probably the correct phrase. That's just under 10. Would we do a share consolidation? Look, there are mixed views on it. Some investors would like to see a consolidation. I'm sure the Nomad would, because they always seem to find it difficult when you've got billions of shares. But we've got other investors who are dead set against it. So I think we'll just wait and see what the market feedback is, but there's no immediate plan to do that. I mean, obviously it's purely cosmetic. Why did we do a placing at a 25% discount? Well, all I can say, I've been doing placings for about 40 years now, and you can do them at less than 25. I've seen much higher discounts, much lower. But I think you've got to be realistic where you are at the time, given the market environment and the size of company. And yes, personally, I'd have loved a lower discount as a big shareholder, but that's what was achievable. I mean, there are several questions about when will we be publishing either revenue forecasts or subscriber numbers. I think as we've said in previous presentations, the Nomad is keen for us not to be pumping out monthly figures. I think we've come to a sort of mutual agreement that aggregated updates every quarter are probably appropriate, but breaking things down into too much detail is quite difficult. It's also actually becoming more difficult in the sense that, for example, in Argentina and Mexico, our new business revenues go through our old carrier contracts. So if you said to me, well, how do our revenues split between legacy business and the new business? It's not impossible to unravel those, but it's impossible to unravel them to a level that's auditable. So there will be roughly quarterly updates. News flow over the next few weeks. Well, if I told you that, we'd have to shoot you. So we obviously can't tell you what news flow is about to come out. Mark Sands break even. Road shows. Well, we're not planning at the moment to do any physical road shows, but you're probably aware we did a presentation on Shares Magazine's virtual road show a few weeks ago. We're doing this now, and on the basis that Investor Meet Company charge us a monthly subscription, we're not going to sit there and pay it and do nothing. So I think you can assume that you'll see more presentations. If there is a demand now that COVID's moved back for a bit more physical meeting, be very happy to do that. We're always accessible.
Also, just to add, we're a very accessible management team. Me, Nigel, Tom, anybody. You can always email the company and you will get a response from us. People often, I think, quite surprised at how detailed and how quick it comes through. So there isn't, we're not standoffish at all. We're very open, transparent. We're always here to answer questions. We do a lot of, we try and do a lot of investor relations if we can, as much as we can, basically. I can see another question here. Vodafone India app is due to launch at the end of the month. Is everything ready? Yes, it is. Tom's actually in charge of that. So I'll lean back and I'll let Tom answer. But as far as I'm aware, it's ready to rock. So with some great games on it as well.
Yeah, it's got some great games in it. So we've started with about 6 or 7 high quality HTML5 games, which will be in the app. Users can download it on the Google Play Store at the end of this month. And currently there's no advertising or anything like that on there. And it's a great user experience. And yeah, it's really what we see as the start to getting into that app world, which we need to. And then as we start to build and grow that, we're going to get more games, and we're going to try and create that into this really vibrant destination where we can just attract more players to the mobile streams gaming world.
Have you got plans to bring live scores? We've got quite big plans for live scores. At the moment, we're integrating it into all of our carrier connections. So we're consolidating, integrating it into everything else. A bit like, I don't know, other software companies, how Microsoft integrated Skype into Teams and then into live scores. So you integrate the tech in. We're looking to grow out the B2B element of that. We already have 4 contracts to use the live scores engine globally with various other companies who are paying us a monthly fee to support their services. So watch this space. You'll be able to advertise in games. You will be able to. We're not doing it yet. Watch this space. We've got quite a lot of plans actually around sort of esports, live scores, advertising, iGaming, which could be good revenue drivers. So again, watch this space. What are the games? Can I have a look at them? It's going to be on the Indian App Store, Google Play Store. So I guess, yeah. There's obviously any acquisition of Quanta or anyone else would have to be RNS, so we can't discuss this openly. Would you consider being bought out, and have you a price in mind? What is your end goal here? Well, as we've talked about, we want to try and get a minimum 100 million valuation and go up from there. So let's leave it at that. Oh, there's quite a lot of questions coming in. So this is quite good, this system, I have to say. As a complete side note, this is quite a good presenter system. So
we're keeping you on your toes, Mark.
They're coming in, good plug for Investor Me, I have to say, compared to some.
Somebody's asked in everyone.
They're coming in so quickly, I can't, I have to let them settle. So let me just take a second.
Asked, any further placing expected this year? Well, there's no such thing as a guarantee. So the management is not going to sit there and guarantee that will never be another placing if this side of hell freezing over. But the reality is we have no plans whatsoever at the moment to do any further placings. We don't need any more money. The only reason I could imagine we would do one is if there's a specific transaction in mind. And there's nothing in mind today that would lead to a placing. But if my Nomad was sitting next to me or my lawyer was sitting next to me, they'd be pointing out to you that is not a guarantee that will never, ever, ever again be another one. But there's certainly no plans that we've got at the moment.
I mean, we are in the absolute strongest position we've ever been in, without any shadow of a doubt, revenue and cash-wise. So let's have a look. Have you ever considered a name change to distance yourself from, I guess, the previous management? No, you know, we've turned it around. So you know, that era ended a couple of years ago, 2 and a bit years ago, and we're doing so much now. So no, I don't think so. I think the name's all right. Our affiliates meeting beating industry standard. They're in line with industry standard. Would you consider your own esports team? Not at the moment, because we want to partner with lots of different brands that have their own audiences. So we want to bring those brands to our audience to monetize. So we like to do it in partnership, and that might be quite a capital-intensive thing. So we'd rather partner. Someone's saying they're very impressed by all of our answers. So I'll read that out. It's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Hold on. They're frozen. I've only got 2 questions now, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe it's just mine. But I can. These are new. Okay. Will IGS likely be extended? Again, that would be RNS, so any information on that. I think I've already answered the one about being bought out. So I've said, look, I've said multiple things. We're trying to build a company worth in excess of 100 million. So I think that's all the questions answered that we can answer.
You've been very, very generous, Mark, and in fact, you've answered every question that we've had from investors. So thank you to yourself, to Nigel, and for Tom for being so generous with your time this morning. Perhaps just
to remind everybody, I mean, as Mark has said, I will guarantee you that every question we get sent via our website, because there is a sort of ask a question facility there, we answer every single investor question. You may not always get the answer you want if you ask for something that's price sensitive we can't give you, but we will answer every question. So if there's something we've missed today and you still want it asked, go to our website, send the question, and I'll make sure it's responded to.
And just to say on this, they scroll quickly on this. So and now there's even more questions coming in. So I don't know if we should, but.
What we'd do, Mark, if I may, is that I can probably keep you here for the entire day at this rate. So I'm mindful of your time, and we are coming up to the hour. But for every question that's been sent in, we'll make these available to the company post today's call.
Yeah, if there are any missed, it's purely because on the screen they scroll very quickly, so they then you can't see them. So we will try our best, as Nigel said, we will try our best to answer every single question. If we've run out of time today, then if there were any apologies, but we've literally gone through everything we can see on the screen, and more are coming in now. So
no problem at all. Exactly, Mark. So if I may, I know investor feedback is important to you, to Nigel, and to Tom, and I'll shortly redirect investors to give you their thoughts and expectations. And as I said, I'll make all the questions available to you post today's meeting as well, so you can review them there. And then we'll publish all the responses back to everybody on this call and make them available on our website. So if I may just ask you for a few closing comments just to wrap up with, and then, as I say, I'll redirect investors to give you their thoughts and expectations.
Yeah, it's just to say, first of all, thanks everyone for joining us today. We appreciate it. We always like to reach out and speak to potential investors and shareholders. We think that's really important. We think the company is in the strongest position it's ever been in. Our revenue is up 87.5% in the last 3 months to over $150,000 a month, and still growing, and we expect it to continue growing. We're in the best position we've ever been in. We've got incredibly strong partnerships. We've already hosted our first events with major brands. We're linked in and connected to and have contracts with some of the biggest companies as brands in the world. We've got an extremely aggressive expansion strategy this year that's, again, should do amazing things for the business. We think with our market cap, we're, a great opportunity. And so with that, thanks everybody for their time, and we really appreciate it.
That's great. Mark, Tom, Nigel, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Mobile Streams PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session. Just with a couple of minutes to spare, good morning to you all.